Hi, my dearest of family. So today we are going to be looking at the full moon, which is taking place on the 12th of February on 24 degree of Leo to 24 degree of Aquarius. Now, this is a dramatic full moon, I must say. Why is that? Well, the full moon actually bang on opposes Mercury, Ceres, Sappho. It's a very tight square to Uranus, which is actually in opposition to Juno. So we've got a lot of, basically, we've got a ground cross going on in the sky now. Therefore, there is a little bit of a drama involved here. So I'm going to break this down for all of you, as well as for the individual signs. So I recommend listening to the very first part of the video because that's going to be giving you a very detailed but generic overview how this full moon is playing out on global level as well as on individual levels. And then I'm going to be giving you some pointers how to deal with this in the best as possible way for each signs or what potentially the outcomes are. Now, before we do that, this is my birthday week. So usually I have got a promotion running during my birthday, and this year is no exception. All my services are between 30 to 50% discounted. So if you would like to have a reading with me, you can now book it, or you can even choose webinars and courses on a discounted price. I've got about 200 webinars and courses all together. So you can find any type of material on each level. So if you're a beginner, you will be able to find something. If you are an advanced student, surely you will be finding material there too. And the most proudest moment of mine is that my third book, which I'm extremely excited about, is actually launched. It is about the signs of prosperity and financial astrology, personal financial astrology. I promise you, this is the only book you ever need to decode your financial abilities through your chart. I've collected multiple techniques to figure out what the best financial path that you can be taking towards abundance. So go for it. Buy it. It's available on my website. It is an ebook though, so there is no printed version just yet, and I'm not too sure if I will be doing one in the near future though. So let's get started with this upcoming lunation. So as mentioned earlier, this is taking place on the 12th of February, and it has got a T-square with Uranus or a ground cross, even if we take that into account, with Juno as well as Sappho and Ceres as asteroids. So I will be kind of mentioning the meaning of those later on. The only positive aspect that it has is actually a trine or a sextile to Chiron. Basically, Moon is in sextile to Chiron and the Sun makes a trine to Chiron. So this lunation pretty much focusing on one hand, on yourself, that you can actually express the way you want to, how much I depend on other people's judgments and opinions, and as well as your social connections. Now, we can see that the sun and the moon are in opposition, which usually means that there is a conflict here. A conflict here whether I should be expressing my viewpoint on something. I can be the unapologetic version of myself, or I have to be kind of like afraid of being rejected by society. Of course, the moon is in the sign of Leo, which is a little bit more fiery. It's quite playful. It can be quite generous. It loves socializing. So the problem is because it's opposing the Sun and Mercury conjunction, it could really talk to you about that you are actually like having a debate between your heart and your brain. So shall I follow the heart desire or shall I kind of like listen to my rational thoughts? And maybe the rational thought somehow is kind of like fed by certain type of fears here, because what if I'm going to get rejected by others? So definitely this full moon is all about socializing, having fun. Leo represents the entertainment industry, for example. But maybe what your thoughts are telling you that you have to be staying away from people because maybe people who are kind of like against you in a way or kind of like restricting you from being the unapologetic version of yourself. It could even indicate that you are kind of like at odds with your way of thinking. So your heart is telling you one thing, but your brain is telling you another. And of course, therefore, it could indicate that your thoughts are a little bit blurry. Of course, when you look at this chart, you will be able to see actually that Mercury is combusted, which is actually an indication that I cannot see things clearly. Now you can see that between the Sun and Mercury, we've got Ceres kind of like wedged in. And on one hand, Ceres is about attachment style. So it could show that, for example, you are highly attached to your friends or you are highly attached to people's opinion and you want their approval. Remember, Venus just shifted into the sign of Aries, which is also about, in a way, standing up for yourself. And then you have got the right to have your own desire. So I don't necessarily recommend kind of like running away from people who might have got different opinions than you, but you're going to have to be able to stand your ground. And of course, this could even indicate that you have to be taking into account other people's opinion, um, but without kind of like being at the expense of your own life. Of course, because you have got these odds with your own way of thinking, it can lead to certain type of misunderstandings as well. Because maybe one day your heart is saying something, but your lips are kind of like saying something else instead. Now, this is getting intensified with Uranus being in the picture as well, which is actually the planet of unpredictability. So, being part of this configuration, it would indicate that you are kind of moody a little bit more on the dramatic side, or Uranus represents certain type of disruptions. So you have got a fun, imagine that you are at a party and then you are feeling great and so forth. And then all of a sudden it kind of like gets cut off with the Uranus. And then things go extremely wrong. And then, therefore, sometimes what is very difficult with this is that kind of like to pay attention to your own needs. Of course, we've got Moon, which is your needs in the sign of wants, Leo. So even it could indicate that your needs and wants are somehow at odds as well. Maybe this is actually increasing your desire to be free from something, to kind of cut ties from um, maybe people in your life, toxic people in your life, but also that Uranus can make you highly intuitive as well. Because we are talking about fixed signs. Imagine the fixed signs as doing things in a fixed way. So maybe Uranus would like you to actually break out of like ways of doing things. This could actually talk to you about, especially having Chiron in the picture as well, that you are prompted to heal something from the past. Maybe it's a wound, maybe it's a traumatic experience. And then maybe it's also because Aquarius is like social media and Leo is the stage, that you are meant to be kind of like sharing your own results or the way that you did that healing element with others as well. So, but it has got multiple other meanings. So let's have a look at those as well. So now, because we've got this full moon, a full moon is actually about culminations. Something gets exposed, something gets highlighted in our lives, but also it could represent fulfillment also. So you might need to be revisiting what went down in your life with the new moon because you might have planted the seeds around that time. And then now we are kind of like in the culmination phase of that. And because this full moon is taking place in the sign of Leo, which also can represent romance, or even kind of like fertility as well, especially having Ceres in the picture. So this could really talk to you about, for example, that the relationship or the romantic life of yours has reached a peak. And then now we're going to have to kind of upgrade that. We're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. kind of like with Uranus, we don't want anything to be boring. So it can feel like that, you know what, we need to spice things up a little bit. And often oppositions are the representation of relationships. They tend to be appearing in our lives kind of like by outsiders or external events and so forth. So when we're talking about the Leo and Aquarius polarity, with an opposition, we have to strike a balance. And what we need to be able to strike a balance with is our personal desire and something that has nothing to do with you. So we can kind of call it as impersonal as well. Leo is about creativity, the creative self-expression of yours, but also the confidence level, and all the fixed signs altogether are talking to you about confidence anyway. Sometimes at this, so we need to be able to build the confidence level of yours. Maybe you're going to have to be very creative about how you are moving forward in life. Somehow you're going to have to find ways of boosting your ego or having to put your ego aside. So it highly depends on your personal chart and, of course, on your personality as well. Maybe it's all about healing your dating life or knowing that you have got the right to have fun. You've got the right to have pleasure in your life, for example. Even this full moon, of course, it's being disposed by the sun and it's in the sign of Aquarius. So the challenge here is that my needs are to be recognized, to be cherished, to be treated like a queen or a king. But it looks like with all that Aquarian energy, we have to be sharing the stage with someone else. So it's kind of like the spotlight is getting stolen from me. So imagine that you go to a party with your friends and you've got a big announcement to make. The announcement could be coming from the Sun and Mercury conjunction, and someone cuts in, or someone is kind of like also making a big announcement, and that could lead to certain type of like jealousy as well. So maybe also this could be a full moon where we're gonna have to know whether I should be mixing my romantic life with friendship. So often the question is, oh, do I want to go out with my best friend? You know, because there is a little bit of a spark going on there. And the spark comes from Uranus being highly involved here. But also the question could be whether can we carry on as friends rather than being romantic encounters? So also Aquarius is the teamwork, while Leo represents something to do with the individual. So do I do this in team or can I actually do it myself? And maybe you don't have the confidence to carry on doing it on your own. But this full moon is an invitation that you can actually, you might be able to do. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be ignoring other people's advice and so forth, but at least I have to be able to try it. Now, remember that Mars went retrograde in the sign of Leo. So this might look like that, okay, this is just another full moon and so on, but the Leo part of your chart got activated already by having Mars retrograde starting on 6th degree of Aquarius and then having that very intense opposition to Pluto. So a lot of our energy patterns in the sky are trying to make us courageous and risk taking. And because we've got this conflictual situation going on, it gets illuminated. So even it could indicate the war between the individualists versus the independents. So these are some of the biggest themes. And whenever we've got a Leo full moon going on, usually that time is kind of like quite dramatic. And then we can kind of have this emotional burst, for example. And then we just triggered badly to express ourselves, to let people know about our feelings. Or simply, we don't want to do that because it would hurt my ego. And of course, it is also very possible that someone hurts your ego. And Moon is actually the planet of kind of like emotional responses. And often Moon in Leo is just going to kind of walk away, especially having Uranus in the picture, shut the door, and then kind of like leave everything behind. And there is always a regret going on with the Leo sign to shut the doors and kind of leave. But because of the ego situation, I cannot allow myself to go back there. So you might see that your behavior is kind of like fluctuating, or you simply just see that people are kind of like crazy and cuckoo around you. So that's also a possibility. Now, what else do we see in this chart, or what else can we actually mention about this? There is this ego clash going on. And obviously, when we are thinking about Leo, which is the entertainment industry, or even to a certain extent, like these important people, it is actually very possible that we will see like politicians or kind of like pop stars are kind of having certain type of arguments going on in the next couple of months. And this might be related to our identity, for example, or they used to be friends, and then we are kind of like splitting connections. I mean, just look at, for example, the Uranus and Juno opposition, which actually took place exactly on the day when Uranus went stationary direct, and that was at the end of January. And since then, what happened was, well, obviously, we've got all these tax and trading issues going on between USA, Canada, and Mexico. And there are kind of like emotional responses to it, of course. And Uranus and Juno opposition could represent splits in contractual agreements. I mean, actually, Juno represents trading partners, contractual agreements. Yes, it does represent soulmate connections as well. So on a personal level, it's worth paying attention to because many relationships can go on haywire, especially because I feel like you don't care about me, you don't recognize me, you don't see that my hair or makeup have been done and I'm beautiful and all those type of stuff. Even imagine scenarios with this Leo full moon where, you know what, because Leo represents things like hobbies, so something that you truly enjoy doing. And imagine that you would like to do something which is actually the representation of your individuality, but your partner is kind of like not having it or kind of like deflecting the idea. And this is where Uranus comes into the picture, where it makes you kind of unpredictable, the way you react to it. And there is a lot of fixed energy going on in this chart. So that is about stubbornness. So I am not letting anyone kind of win. I'm not letting anyone to kind of step over me and so forth. Um, so your actions could be quite, or even your conversations could be a little bit all over the place, to be frank. And also, I would say that um, this is potentially because we have also seen what 200 earthquakes in 4 days since Uranus went stationary direct on 23 degree. So this actually can bring a very dramatic kind of like flight accident or certain type of natural disasters as well in the world. So it looks like it kind of hasn't finished just yet. You know, I would say that Moon in Leo is about kind of like glowing. And and the problem here is that someone is kind of like trying to steal that from you. But also it is definitely an invitation that you need to be able to kind of find the role that you want to be in. If I want to be an artist, then I need to be stepping on that road. What is that string? How does that string look like that pulls your heart? You know, what is it telling you? Listen to your intuitions with that Uranus, because obviously Uranus is the representation of intuitive hints as well. And you know, we are right almost at the end of the Mars retrograde period. So, and I kind of, and Mars is being disposed by the moon, of course. So somehow it looks like that this full moon is an invitation to finally put something in bed, or it at least highlights your internal struggles, or it wants you to kind of find that drive and motivation within yourself, which is going to take you further. And because Mars is still in retrograde, though, but it moves extremely slowly, sometimes it's a bit difficult to move and or to feel inspired to move forward. We can be quite sad. As I said, at one moment your mood is extremely great, and the next moment is actually quite messed up. And then you cannot even imagine why it is actually happening. Maybe you kind of feel like that your life is going like there is no goals, there is no project, there is nothing to kind of look forward to. And what could be the negative feeling is that you see others thriving and doing things. So why is it not happening to me? So there is somehow this emotional, mental, or even energetically speaking, kind of like you're feeling drained somehow. And but I think it's also very important to mention with this lunation that you don't need the approval of others. You don't need to be accepted by others, or you don't have to be kind of thrive or working extremely hard towards that. Because Chiron is in the picture, even the trine, and Chiron is in the sign of Aries, that is actually telling you that the medicine is the self. The medicine is your strength and your confidence level and bravery and the risk-taking side of you, or to kind of listening to the inner child. And when you think about the Leo and the Aries archetype together, is kind of like that toddler, really. So also, I think with this lunation, we are reminded that we all have got purpose in life. And we all have got milestones in our life that we must celebrate. We all must find something beautiful in our life that we can be proud of or we can look up to. So even it feels like there is this need here to be a little bit more optimistic, celebration of life, feeling somehow special as well. Allow yourself to be seen, to be adored, to be acknowledged, and don't hide behind other people's back. You know, Leo is the representation of heart, and heart should be filled with joy when you look into the mirror. But of course, as I said earlier, we've got the Aquarius part of the chart, which often represents acceptance. Maybe you just need kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be allowing yourself to say goodbye to certain type of negative emotions or to the past. Where does that come from? Because the dispositor of the Aquarius energy, at least the sun, which is the dispositor of the lunation, right, is um, in Pisces, which is the sign of having to let go of something. Know that you are worthy, know that you are wanted, know that you are special. And sometimes what we need to be letting go of is that, it roots from somewhere. The moon represents our roots. And with Leo, it is childhood experiences. So the way we are conditioned, the way we were loved as a child, maybe we were fearful about something. Maybe they didn't allow you to shine as a bright star. Maybe you were belittled. You are treated like a small little kind of like, you know, child. But actually it says that you've got a talent, you are a rough kind of diamond, and you just have to be kind of polishing it a little bit. So this is where Uranus wants you to liberate yourself, to empower yourself, to make changes in your life, to get outside of your comfort zone. And even it is telling you to, in a way, to say no to people who are not allowing you to be this loving, caring, highly talented, magnetic type of person. You know, sometimes with that Sun and Mercury conjunction, it can feel like that we are not allowed to breathe. That's how kind of suffocating this scenario could be. Now, as mentioned earlier, we've got a series being involved as well. And series is one of the representation of depression. So this could be really about depressive energies as well. It series, by the way, is on 25 degree. And I mentioned earlier, but we've got Sappho also in Aquarius as well on 25 degree as well. So these are quite um, like tight conjunctions. And Sappho, well, I recently actually was talking about Sappho in my sexology course because Sappho, on one hand, could represent the lesbian community. But on the other hand, it does represent anything to do with LGBTQ or even the very artistic abilities of yourself. So another artistic expression here. And Sappho was very much about poetry and writing and so forth. So it again feels like that this is an invitation that we need to be able to tap into those energies. Now, a little bit about Sappho. Oh, potentially, let me just check the astrological number for it. I forgot to kind of mention that to you. Let me just look at on my program because sorry about that. I usually prepare these ahead, but this time around I forgot. Um, so just 2 seconds. Now I can't see it. What is going on? Sorry, I have to come closer to the screen. Yeah, it's number 80. 80. So that's on 24 degrees. So this is a very tight conjunction. So what I was going to say is that Sappho was named after an ancient Greek poet. And so therefore it brings up the topic of poetry. But also it is the asteroid of creativity as well. I mean, to mention actually, Sappho had a little bit of a pervert type of side to it as well, though. So let me just mention that too. But staying on the line of creativity, it is creative expression, artistic abilities, or certain type of writing. And definitely, it's a highly romantic type of asteroid also. So this could talk to us about feeling romantic or passionate. But what happens is that it's an opposition to the moon. So even though the moon is a romantic type of signature of the chart also, but maybe what happens is that our pride doesn't allow us for these romantic moments. And let's just not forget that we have got Valentine's Day on the corner if anyone is actually celebrating that. So yeah. Also, there is, as mentioned earlier, but this is also a representation of lesbian connections as well, or kind of like basically not just lesbian connections, but any type of relationships with another female. So it could indicate, for example, that female kind of like battle is going to be happening, for example. So a female friend of yours or a male friend of yours, but kind of like the same gender. Basically, that's what I would like to mention. Or you are going to be making, or because we've got Juno also in the picture in Scorpio, which is a strong union, kind of like a strong bond created with someone. So maybe what happens is that you would like to make a powerful connection with a female person, for example. But also Sappho represents love and desire as well. I mean, if you read some of her poems, this is all kind of like driven by feelings. So it could actually indicate that you are highly romantic and you would like to connect with someone. Look at Sappho, look at Ceres. Ceres wanted to reconnect with her daughter. Juno is about soulmate connections. Sappho is about the desire towards love and in a way being accepted. And then we've got the moon, which is actually the wife energy. So this chart really, really does talk to us about relationships, which gets a little bit more on the intense side, though. And the other thing that Sappho represents is something to do with the appreciation towards beauty. So maybe you don't feel kind of like beautiful next to someone, or you even compare yourself with others, or somehow, it's Valentine's Day. Imagine that your partner kind of forgets the Valentine's Day. You don't get those roses and all those type of stuff. And then therefore, there is going to be like an expressive type of communication going on, which is also very much of a Sappho signature. And Sappho was highly sensitive towards rejection because she did experience a lot of pain because of romantic rejections. So again, this is telling us that it looks like that we are getting somehow rejected, but it represents relationship patterns as well. So maybe you're going to have to see that it is rooted from somewhere. And because Mercury is in the picture, we're going to have to kind of rationalize it. We're going to have to learn about it. We're going to have to be able to um, kind of like getting to the bottom of it pretty much. So, okay, guys. So I think I've given enough food for thought in connection to the full moon in the sign of Leo. So I think let's have a look at. Actually, I wanted to check one other thing. So give me 2 seconds. Yeah, I was just checking if there was another asteroid there because I remember something, but that's already shifted sign. So no. So the final comment I would like to make here is that in a very positive way, this full moon is an invitation to upgrade Uranus, the way you communicate, Mercury, to like partners. So when we are talking about partners, we are not only talking about romantic connections, remember that, but it could be a family member, it could be a friend, or it could even be a business partner or the neighbor and so forth. And because we've got this series and Juno, remember series was about the abduction of her daughter, and then she went through hell and fire and all those type of things to get her daughter back. And then we've got Juno in Scorpio, which is all about the fear of being in a committed partnership. So this could indicate that we've got a lot of traumatic experiences that are kind of like getting spotlighted here, stirred up, and all of a sudden it gets dumped on you with that Uranus. Because remember, Uranus is kind of like the tarot card in the tarot deck, and it just comes like a lightning strike. And then what the heck am I going to be doing with that? So, but the positive manifestation of series is the harvest. So in order for me to be able to gain the most out of it is an upgraded version of your communication style. Even Uranus being the higher octave of Mercury, it brings in, the topic of the mind, the accelerated mind, the mind that is kind of like running 24/7. It's kind of like the combination of HD, and so forth. I cannot necessarily sit down. But in the fixed signs, it's so important that we count to 10, you know? And then maybe this full moon is an invitation that, yes, we do need to celebrate the nice and beautiful moments in life as well. So, guys, then let's start with the 12 signs. Let's get started with Aries rising sign. So, this is taking place in your fifth house. So, I recommend listening to the whole video because obviously Leo is the fifth sign. So, this is a very detailed reading I did previously. But here, to summarize, the fifth house is connected to pleasure, joy, romance, creativity. So it is all about an invitation to do things for fun. It is also about making somehow progress to towards something that you have had desired for a very long time. And this is also about the celebration of life as well. Maybe there are things in life that you would like to do, but with that Uranus square in your second house, you have got financial considerations. Maybe, yes, there could be potentially a bit of a drama with boyfriend and girlfriend as well, because we have got differences going on. We are looking at what fun or intimacy, sex, and so forth mean for one to another. But also, this is definitely telling you that you need to be able to kind of like keep your ground and know what your needs are, and not necessarily kind of like, letting go of your own needs. You don't have to be people pleasing. So, one of the good things that you can be doing with this full moon is start a new hobby or do something that you truly enjoy. Definitely, maybe this is an invitation as well to kind of like put your thoughts out there to the world. You don't need to be scared of it, for example, because of course, the other side of the full moon is falling into your 11th house, right? And the 11th house is sociability. So this is about going out with friends and so forth. I would also say that maybe, yeah, it could definitely talk to you about that you would like to kind of like, in a way, getting caught up in a drama, for example, at home, because Moon is disposing Mars in your fourth house. And that could be a representation of family feuds. And maybe you just would like to move away, move out, or you guys don't agree where to move or what to do with the property, for example, that we have, and so forth. So that's also another possibility with this lunation. I think we've got everything that we might need to know about this. One other thing that actually came to my mind is maybe you're gonna have to be looking at whether you are passionate about something. What are your goals? Are you really passionate about it? Because we've got the Aquarius energy in the 11th house, and that represents your long-term goals. And maybe what happens is that you feel like you don't get a recognition, you don't get the praise from others. You do all these creative things, for example, for Valentine's Day, and then it's kind of like, you just get the, what comes to my mind is, have you seen the movie Murder Mystery 1 or 2? I can't remember which one it is in, but we've got uh, the lady or the guy, we've got the guy, Adam Sandler's, who only buys like this Amazon gift card to the girlfriend, and the girlfriend would like to go to Europe because they have been married for 15 years, and the guy has promised to take her, but they have never gone. So they have an argument, and then they end up actually going to Europe. Now, this full moon kind of like sounds like the murder mystery 1 or 2 story a little bit. So I love it. And by the way, I forgot to mention in the previous video, oh, sorry, at the beginning of the video, but this lunation also has got a quintile to Jupiter, though. And Jupiter, on one hand, expands or even makes things more dramatic, but the quintile carries the Venusian energy within itself. So this could actually show, again, creative. And surely, Aries, you're going to have to work on your confidence level as well, or you even have to be a little bit more on the kind of like the generous side. Okay, let's move on to Taurus. So, dear Taurus, for you, this lunation is going to be also important. On one hand, because you have got Uranus in your first house, and this full moon is actually happening in your fourth house. So it really looks like that you're going to have to walk away. You are encouraged here to walk away from any type of family dynamics, or you have to be able to say goodbye to the past. Yes, sometimes this is about a locational change. So you say goodbye to places where you grew up, something that is familiar to you. This could actually really represent that you are having to get out of your comfort zone and get into situations that is completely unfamiliar to you. And we've got the Aquarian part happening in your 10th house, which is giving you the opportunity to actually be recognized. You might not be recognized at home, for example, for all the efforts that you make, but maybe you are going to be professionally recognized by others. Also, of course, the challenge could be that you don't feel that you are getting recognized neither at home or at your workplace. And that is kind of like leaving you upset or even depressed with Ceres being there. And on top of that, this could even talk to you about having to work through some generational patterns as well. And that's highly important. Why is that? Because you've got Chiron in the 12th house, and it is even making a trine to this a trine to this full moon. So, and the 12th house is the generational, the generational karma, basically. So you have to be able to kind of dig a lot deeper where these things are originated from. So maybe potentially you are going to be relocating, or you want to be kind of like finding a new um, flatmate, or you want to be finding a new lodger, for example, or you want to be somehow even beautifying, upgrading, making your home environment a little bit more luxurious. Now, the fourth house also represents your private life as well. So this could talk to us about that you just, you are not sure whether I want to be shining at home or sorry, shining out there and so forth. I might want to be spending a little bit more time at home. Even it could indicate that you are going to be organizing a bit of a party at home, Leo party, fourth house at home. But it's my turn. I've seen this movie recently. I can't remember. We've got two sisters. One is an irresponsible sister. The other one is kind of a responsible one. And the parents decide to sell their homes. And then they organize this last party at home, which actually completely destroys the home. I can't remember the title of this movie, but this full moon kind of like reminds me of that a little bit for Taurus rising sign. Also, maybe what you are uncomfortable about is something to do um, with your work. So even it could represent that you would like to initiate something. And I think this lunation on top of that, not just because of Chiron being in your 12th house, but Venus shifted into the 12th house as well, which represents your subconscious. So even Venus is inviting you to look at your blockages in connection to the past feelings, something that hurt you, or go through an emotional healing process, or connect basically why you feel like that you didn't receive the love that you deserved. And I think surely this full moon, in a way, is going to bring you quite a lot of clarity about what has been happening within yourself as well as um, in your family, basically. And I feel like that this full moon might be helping you to reevaluate your success stories as well in life. Okay, I think I mentioned everything that you need to know. Oh, one other thing, I think it's also important that you focus on something that truly matters. Kind of like, the fourth house, the house of sanctuaries. So, and because that's the inner sense of the self, it is really an invitation that don't give a shit about others. Just focus on yourself. It's about self-care. Okay, let's move on to Gemini rising sign. So Gemini, this is going to be happening in your third house, which is the house of communication, contracts, learning, writing, or collecting information. Even this could talk to you about certain type of discussions that you are having. So it looks like that this lunation is an invitation to express your feelings boldly. Maybe this is also telling you that it's time to kind of like not sugarcoating things in a way, but not necessarily trying to hurt others. But I'm going to be displaying my opinion about certain type of topics in life, whether others are gonna like it or not. Yes, surely this is telling you to count to 10 because there could be an emotional reaction to it, and therefore we can get into arguments and so forth. Or even it is telling you to collect the information before you actually kind of like open your mouth. And also, maybe this could represent certain type of opportunities as well, opportunities to connect with benefactors in your life. Maybe we are not on the same page, but we might connect. One of the reasons is because we've got Chiron in your 11th house alongside with Venus as well. And the 11th house is the benefactors in our life, but also the friends. So maybe you are just forming some very meaningful connections. And potentially you might not have been able to imagine that this connection could go kind of like anywhere really. And I also feel like with Jupiter being in the picture, it is trying to increase your confidence, and it is somehow making you look like this larger than type of person. Why I mentioned Jupiter is because Jupiter has got a very tight quintile to this lunation. So I kind of like that for you. I also believe that you might become very passionate about studying something, taking a course, for example. It could be something really kind of exciting. So creative writing could be on the horizon for you. Maybe it's not the easiest to publish it, but you might want to be writing an article. You might even want to do a promotion, for example. Let's move on to Cancer rising sign. So this lunation is taking place in your second house, so highlighting your resources, talents, finances, and financial approach to life. So this could actually talk to you about that you want to break away from financial limitations. You want to be upgrading the source of money that you've got, or you are actually craving for financial independence, or you want just to feel secure and safe. Yes, maybe on one hand, this is talking to you about having to kind of get rid of anything like material attachments, just because we've got Uranus and Aquarius in the picture, and often that's kind of like the intellectual assets. Also, this could indicate that it's time to practice self-care. The second house is indulgence. So this could indicate that you're going to have to practice that. But be careful. I mean, Leo is about luxurious items, second house is about indulgence. So you need to be extremely careful because with Uranus being in the picture, it's very easy to overspend, very easy to kind of go on a shopping spree. You might be ordering takeout all the times rather than cooking at home. And then you realize, Jesus Christ, I've just spent $200, for example, on this Valentine's Day. And I kind of never done that before. Also, we've got this trine coming from Chiron in your 10th house, but Venus is in the picture as well. And that is the house of career. So maybe this is actually an indication that uh, you want to be discussing, for example, anything to do with pay rise or anything to do with whether you are noticed, heard, or understood at workplace. I also feel like that maybe even you're gonna have a new moon connected to career department as well at the end of the month. So some of you will start thinking about potentially starting a new job as well, though. So I would like to kind of mention that too. Okay, let's move on to Leo rising sign, right? That's where we are. Yes, Leo rising sign. So Leo, this is happening in your first house. You need to be shining the brightest, you know. This is a time for you to start fresh, to have goals in life, to definitely work on your confidence, to change something about your appearance. This is an upgraded version of yourself. Like the way how you look like yesterday is shouldn't be the way how you look like tomorrow. So it's about tapping into that authentic self of yourself. This now Uranus is in the picture in your 10th house as well. So this is kind of like upping your game a little bit in connection to your career choices. So maybe you just need to be brave and leave that steady job that you are stuck in for a very long time. Of course, we've got the Aquarius part as well. That's your 7th house, which could represent end of contractual agreements, but also new contractual agreements too. And even this could indicate that, yeah, you are going to get into certain type of kind of like conflictual situations at work or with business partners because of work or with your romantic partners, but again, because of work or status or not getting engaged and all those type of things. Imagine a scenario where um, you have got a Valentine's Day dinner scheduled at 5 p.m., for example, and you were meant to be finishing at 4, but something has suddenly come up, and then you have to do overtime, and then you are late from the date. And then the partner kind of snaps at you. So this is how I kind of imagine this scenario here. Surely this is an invitation also to work on creating kind of like a stronger bond potentially with your partner. Now, Chiron and Venus in your 9th house, which is definitely telling you to be adventurous, to try new things out. Uranus is kind of repeating that story as well. Or in a way, it's about understanding others or sharing your knowledge with others, kind of like keeping calm and collected also, though. And I would say that surely this is about a personal growth, but in a way, we're gonna have to be growing together with with our partner, because sometimes this would be even giving the feeling that you know what, we are growing, but the path that we are on is completely kind of like at a fork. So how we are going to be kind of intertwining the two roads that we are working on. I also believe that maybe you're gonna have to work on ways of getting attraction to yourself so that you are shining. You are the best. Know that you are the greatest event of your life, basically. This is telling you to celebrate yourself. This is telling you to be an unapologetic version of yourself. This is telling you to express yourself confidently. This is bringing you clarity about who you are. I love it for you. Let's have a look at Virgo rising sign. So, dear Virgo, this is actually taking place in your 12th house. And, you know, Virgo, you are all about habits and routines. But Leo is about celebration, right? So, on one hand, maybe this is telling you that you're going to have to walk away from certain type of habits and routines just for a second, because the 12th house is kind of like a closure. You're going to have to end a habit, for example, but also it's time to heal. It's time to kind of do some certain type of reflection, meditation, kind of like switching on solitude for a couple of seconds and just paying attention to the self rather than paying attention to your work or to others and so forth. This is telling you that also potentially you've been looking down on yourself, or you allowing others to look down on you, or you have got these certain type of like self-defeating behaviors or negative self-talks that you're gonna have to stop. Maybe this is coming from co-workers, for example, or even bosses, and so on. And also, this is telling you just to reflect on your goals a little bit. Maybe this is about making space for new activities in your schedule. So there is a need to reschedule a certain type of thing so that, yeah, you can go for that massage. You can do whatever you want, basically. Remember that this period for you, in a way, is self-care. And the self-care is not only physical, but it's a spiritual practice as well. So having to feel better in your own skin, I think it's a major message for you. Surely this is telling you to step outside of your comfort zone. I mean, it even can be connected to fears, inherited fears, because you've got Chiron in your eighth house alongside with Venus as well. So it's time to go through a rebirth. It's time to go through an empowerment that you've got the right to be you. You've got the right to take time off for yourself. You've got the right to go on holidays and all those type of things. But surely this full moon can make you highly sensitive, highly vulnerable. And therefore, it's very easy to project your insecurities onto others. Uranus is in your ninth house, so maybe that would like you to travel somewhere nice and exotic and a special place. But oh, I've got the pace to bill, or I don't know, this person is sick and I cannot, leave them behind and so forth. Maybe you just have been coming up with excuses because you don't know how to have fun. Ask yourself that question as well. It really feels like that you have to give yourself the permission to rest, to recharge the batteries, to, in a way, run away from your responsibilities. Okay, let's have a look at Libra rising sign. Oh, Libra rising sign. So this is going to be taking place in your 11th house, which is very much connected to your long-term goals, dreams, hopes, and wishes, but also it's a support house as well. So often it is going to be describing the benefactors in your life, such as your friends, for example, or communities that you belong to. So this full moon is actually highlighting your goals at the moment, whether you want to make them happen, for example. Maybe this is going to be talking to you about thinking to invest into something, or you want to be working on your visibility, especially if you have got a online project going on, or you would like to launch a YouTube channel, or you might be thinking about, okay, how can I boost? How can I make myself more visible? Also, this could be actually bringing up some drama with your friends as well, or even in your romantic life. I mean, imagine that you go out, for example, with a bunch of people, and then somehow they are kind of stirring something up. Maybe some rumors and gossips are being spread as well. And also, maybe even it could represent that a secret is kind of like getting revealed here that you have had no information about before, or something that kind of like they let the cat out of the bag. But of course, this could even indicate that it's time to actually make kind of like a stronger bond. Maybe what bothers you is that you are not being paid attention to by your friends, and then it is a bit frustrating for you. And I would also say that because the ruler of your rising sign is Venus, and it's in the sign of Aries. And also, we've got Chiron there. It really kind of represents that it's time to actually invest a little bit more into your romantic life. Maybe you would like to do a little bit more like social events, for example, with your partner, introducing your partner to your friends, and so forth. And yeah, this could even indicate that you have got some type of kind of like love story, even some type of platonic love story that is going on. Also, maybe I would also like to mention to you that the 11th house is so much connected to your social connections as well, or even you want to be part of a larger community. Maybe you are actually creating a community and then you are going to be becoming a kind of like the leader of that. And also, this could indicate that you are about to celebrate something, like with your friends, for example, or you want to be surrounded by like minded individuals. Or potentially, you might feel like that some of these people that you are surrounded by are not necessarily your friends anymore. We are not on the same page. So you want to be emotionally distancing yourself from them. Now let's have a look at what is happening for Scorpio rising sign. So first of all, this full moon is actually happening in your 10th house, which is the house of accomplishment. It's connected to your achievements, your legacy, your reputation, how you are viewed by the society, and of course your professional goals. So maybe this is somewhere where you're going to start thinking about, am I in the right career path? Maybe there's a bit of a drama going down, for example, at work. Maybe because also you've got Uranus triggering this as well for you, which is in your 7th house. This could actually talk to you about that you are about to sign a new contract or you are about to actually end a contractual agreement with someone. And even it could bring up some tensions, for example, in your home environment because of work situations, like you are having to take work home and the partner doesn't necessarily like that. But also, this is about you wanting to gain some attention or recognition at work. And maybe someone else is kind of like trying to steal the spotlight from you. Maybe also important to remember that you want to be actually looking at your career path, whether this is something that resonates with you, like, kind of like reevaluating your goals, looking at whether you get all the attention, the recognition, the promotion that you have been working towards. Do you feel like that this is something that is giving you joy and pleasure? And do you feel that you can express yourself at work the way you want to? Also, I would say that this might be just about having to look at whether you have got your own ambition, whether you are ready to be in the spotlight or you want to be sharing the spotlight with others because of the Aquarius element. And also we've got Uranus in the picture as well, which is actually wanting you to get out of your comfort zone. But Uranus is also the planet of progress. So we have got the opportunity here to progress further in your career, but maybe you're gonna have to be putting on the boxing gloves just because Mars went retrograde in the sign of Leo as well. And then it's kind of like fighting for that position that you have been dreaming about. Also, maybe another topic that you might want to be considering here is parental topics, of course. So there could be some drama, for example, um, not only at home, like, but with your people that you live together with, or even with your family members as well. Let's have a look at what is happening for Sagittarius rising sign. So, Sagittarius, for you, we've got this full moon happening in the 9th house, which is always a kind of like an expanding quality. It is talking to us about opportunities. This is the representation of your own philosophy, perspective over life, meaning to life, and therefore often it indicates that we have to learn something here. So maybe you want to be learning something that you can be truly passionate about, that you have always dreamt of, or maybe somehow you are expanding your perspective over the world. And maybe you want to be making changes, and maybe you want to relocate, for example, or you just feel very inspired to go after something. I would say that because Mercury is involved here in the third house, we're going to have to ask a lot of questions. We're going to have to be able to uh, plan things out. So the how to go after that goal that you've got. And also, definitely, there is this element of having to be dedicated towards a plan. Maybe you're going to start studying something spiritual, for example, or you're just craving for independence, you are craving for adventure, and then out of the blue, you are going to be buying, for example, a plane ticket. Of course, remember that we have got Uranus going through your sixth house as well. And that could be, for example, an indication that you have got your travel plans already, but you have got maybe kind of like a medical issue that is popping up, an unexpected medical issue, and then you have to cancel your flight or delay your flight and so forth. And also, Uranus in the sixth house could represent that you have to be upgrading some of your habits that you do. So look at those habits connected to your opportunities, connected to your goals. Maybe this is kind of like a new working habit, for example. Maybe you want to be focusing a little bit more on kind of like having more structure in your everyday life as well. And I would also say that with this new moon, sorry, full moon, because we've got also Venus in your fifth house alongside with Chiron. This could be actually giving you the opportunity to meet kind of like a romantic partner, for example, in foreign fields. And also, maybe it could actually indicate that you are just making this kind of like heartfelt connections with others, where we are sharing opinions or we are having these exciting conversations, for example. And yes, often it is an indication that we are not going to be on the same page, but surely it could be exciting. And even Jupiter is in your seventh house, which is just stationed direct. It could actually indicate again certain type of collaborations. So with Venus in the fifth, ninth, and seventh house, a new relationship could be on the horizon, but also new business opportunities as well, collaborations with others. So this could be quite interesting time for you. We have spoken about Jupiter. The reason why is because Jupiter has got a quintile, which is a 72-degree aspect to this lunation. And I also would say that because Jupiter is the ruling planet of your chart, of course, that quintile actually, which represents creativity alongside with Venus in the fifth house, is actually highly important. And sometimes the message with Jupiter that just you have to go big and you have to ask those big questions and you have to kind of be brave and make a decision. Okay, let's move on to Capricorn rising sign. So Capricorn, we've got this full moon in the sign of Leo, which is going to be happening in your eighth house. And the eighth house is connected to shared resources, investment, psychological blockages, power struggles, empowerment, vulnerability, karmic debts as well. And of course, it represents any type of financial situations too. So you might be having some very serious conversations about money, investments, or financial matters with potentially a partner of yours. Maybe this is actually a romantic partner you have been hanging out with. Because Uranus is in the picture as well, actually in your fifth house. So that's where the romantic connection could be coming from. But also, this could represent, for example, a business opportunity, investment opportunity, and then we are discussing options about it, such as, okay, how can we actually help each other out? to put our assets together and so forth. But psychologically speaking, it is also telling you that you're going to have to find a deeper sense of security within yourself. And in order for you to do that, sometimes you're going to have to kind of let go of the past, maybe some heavy feelings, some traumatic experiences, some memories that have been haunting you, so that you can kind of create this joyful moment. Also, with this lunation, because of Venus and Chiron are part of this picture as well. And that is actually taking place in your fourth house. Sometimes this might be an indication that you are somehow considering, for example, that the healing needs to be coming from the family environment. Maybe it's the realization that you've got some type of like buried uh, familiar type of issues that you have to be able to overcome, or you realize that, you know what, emotionally, I'm not the most secure person ever. This lunation for you, I would say that potentially it could give you an opportunity to um, to transform your life, or maybe it's just a realization, like highlighting to you that it's time to change. It's time to trust. It's time to make deep emotional connections with others. So I am actually excited for you, even though it might sound a little bit difficult. But by embracing the change in your life, it looks like you are going to be making a better future. Let's have a look at Aquarius rising sign. So, first of all, the full moon illuminates your seventh house, which is one-to-one connections, partnerships. So this could really talk to you about some type of drama that are popping up, for example, in your romantic connections. But also this could be actually highlighting whether, let's say, we're gonna get married, because it's about the celebration of our relationship. Like going on a vacation, it's kind of like the honeymoon period. But yeah, this could even bring you a divorce as well, unfortunately. So just know that. Maybe it's an engagement, and the engagement could be coming out of the blue as well. So you don't necessarily kind of like expecting it. But as I mentioned before, it can lead to certain type of a divorce as well, because you might realize that the relationship that you are in is actually not serving your needs anymore. We do have got actually the Taurus part of your chart quite active as well by having Uranus. So maybe it's just kind of like an unsettled feeling whether I'm with the right person or not. And also it could indicate that actually the relationship with your parents might become a little bit more on the dramatic side as well, because somehow you're not feeling supported. It kind of can feel like that, they are undermining you, or your confidence level is somehow kind of like feeling belittled by them. And I would say that Jupiter is part of this as well, which is actually placed in your fifth house, which definitely would like to kind of like bring a little bit more joy and creativity and romance into your life. So if you have got a relationship, imagine a romantic dinner, Valentine's Day, getting pregnant as well. Actually, that's a possibility. And even we've got Chiron and Venus being a part of this picture as well in your third house, which is actually telling you to be brave, to talk up about if you feel that the relationship needs more fun, more intimacy, more kind of like joy, and so forth. Okay. I think, oh, one other thing that actually came to my mind with this full moon, it is actually also giving you the opportunity to see some of your relationship patterns, for example. So, do I have got to work something through here? And of course, the seventh house is the representation of any type of one-to-one connections, such as business partnerships and so on. And by having Jupiter in your fifth house could actually indicate that it's time to put yourself out there. It's time to kind of advertise yourself, do certain type of promotions to attract more clients. And yeah, maybe this is also a highlight whether, in a partnership, we are ready to kind of compromise, and if we are, then we're actually ready to move forward as well, right? But let's celebrate the nice moment in our relationships, whether it is more on the professional side or more on the romantic side. Both can be a really great idea with this lunation. And last but not least, Pisces rising sign. So, dear Pisces, this is going to be taking place in your sixth house, which is the house of habits, health, responsibilities, the routine, your pets, for example. So maybe actually you might be tired of kind of like doing or sticking to a certain type of schedule, and then you want to be upgrading that a little bit. Maybe you want to be on a fitness journey and then you need certain type of a change. Maybe you have been doing like me boxing for 6 months and then now you feel like that, you know what, I need something new here. And with Uranus in your third house, this could actually represent that you are kind of like making this short distance trip, for example, to practice certain type of habits somewhere else. But this is highlighting your habits in a way whether, I follow the right diet, I follow the right habits. And also, this could be bringing you some unexpected type of medical conditions as well that you didn't kind of encounter with. So watch out for things like food poisoning with Uranus in the sign of Taurus, for example. Also, this could be even the representation that all of a sudden your reactions are going to be a little bit more all over the place. So your body can be reacting in kind of like a funny way, or even it could indicate some spiritual rituals that you want to be part of or you want to be doing. So you might be actually connecting with some spiritual people with this also. I mean, there is a lot of focus on the Pisces part of your chart this month, right? So, surely, which is your first house, and that represents self discovery and something to do with your physical body and so forth. And also, even when we think about Venus and Chiron being in your second house, it looks like that it's time to kind of work on your confidence. And you are ruled by Jupiter, which is actually in your fourth house, making a quintile to this lunation. So it highly looks like that in order for you to get those habits, health right, you're gonna have to kind of ask the question where it's rooted from. Sometimes what happens is that you're just gonna have to improve your home life. So even it could indicate certain type of relocation for yourself. For example, I am going to be relocating, that's for sure. I have no clue where to just yet. I'm kind of like dabbling between three countries actually, and I've got kind of 2 weeks to decide, but I haven't made up my mind yet. But because I've got internet issues, surely actually I'm leaving this home because we just don't get from one to two with the owner. So self-care, wellness type of related things, it's a little bit time to kind of look within. Maybe it even tells you that slow down because you can get into an accident as well. So good to know that the sixth house is the representation of actually accidents. And maybe, because the sixth house is also somehow represents your work, some disruptive type of things could be happening at your workplace as well. And maybe this is telling you that, you know what, I have to be kind of like focusing on my own well-being rather than okay, I've got to work. And of course, we all have got to work, but your well being is extremely important. And there needs to be an element of a balance there, right? Maybe it's the realization that the work environment you are in is impacting you kind of negatively. Maybe your mental or emotional or physical well being is kind of like dropping because of this. So, guys, this was my analysis on the upcoming lunation. So we will meet again very shortly with another video. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye bye.